She has sustained multiple stab wounds and still had a butcher's knife buried into her chest. Hello there and welcome to my channel. I hope you're doing well. My name is Gabby and today we're going to be talking about the case of Teresita Basa. Murders are solved through some combination of detective work and luck. Occasionally, however, there's a case where the killer is brought to justice via far more unusual means. A prime example of such a case is the 1977 murder of Teresita Basa and the subsequent arrest and conviction of her killer. Born in the Philippines in 1929, Teresita Basa moved to the USA in the 1960s to study music. She later became a respiratory therapist at Chicago's Edgewater Hospital while she pursued a master's degree in music. She was described as a polite, kind and unassuming woman who gave free piano lessons to the neighbourhood children and lived quietly when she wasn't at work or in class. On the 21st of February 1977, Ruth Loeb, a friend of Teresita's, phoned her at her apartment. Ruth later testified that they'd talked for about 30 minutes and that Teresita had mentioned that she was expecting a friend to come around that evening, but hadn't given any details regarding the friend's identity or the reason for the visit. About an hour after Ruth spoke to Teresita, neighbours smelled smoke in their apartment building. The fire department were called and they tracked down the location of the fire to Teresita's apartment. Inside, the firefighters found her naked body under a burning mattress and clothes. She had sustained multiple stab wounds and still had a butcher's knife buried into her chest. Despite appearances, an autopsy revealed that Teresita hadn't been a victim of sexual assault prior to her death. With that motive eliminated, no others presented themselves. Detectives interviewed everyone who knew Teresita and none of them had any idea why anyone would want to kill her. Things weren't any better in terms of physical evidence either, with anything that might have been present having been destroyed by the fire, as likely was the intent of the murderer and arsonist. The only surviving clue was a note in the apartment reminding the now deceased Teresita to get theatre tickets for A.S, but it wasn't much to go on, and the case it seemed was destined to grow cold. 6 months after the murder, during which time the police had found no leads or otherwise made any progress, help finally came from a highly unusual source. A co-worker of Teresita's, a fellow Filipino, Remy Baez Chua, better known as Remy, claimed that following the murder she'd started having dreams about Teresita where she would beg her to tell the police what had happened. According to Remy's husband, Dr. Jose C. Chua Jr., there had also been an incident in which his wife, in what appeared to be in a trance and speaking with a very heavy accent that wasn't her own, had said, "Doctor, I would like to ask for help. The man who murdered me is still at large." Chua questioned his entranced wife as to who she was and got a shock. As he later recounted, "I was really surprised and scared when I asked her name, and she answered, and I apologise for this as I'm not Filipino, my pronunciation, Ako y Teresita Basa, Ako y Teresita Basa, which translates as, I am Teresita Basa." The ghost identified her killer as Alan Showery, another employee of Edgewater Hospital, and pleaded with the Chuas to go to the police with the information. But Dr. Chua was reluctant to do so, which is very understandable. Going to the police with information about a murder that was obtained from a ghost is the sort of thing that gets you labelled a crackpot or crank. At worst, makes you a suspect yourself, especially when there is no corroborating evidence. According to the Chuas, however, Teresita's ghost didn't give up. During another incident where Remy was in a trance, she asked Dr. Chua why he hadn't gone to the police. When his reply included mentioning the lack of evidence, the ghost provided some, saying that Showery had stolen some of her jewellery and later given it to his girlfriend as a gift. The Chuas finally went to the police, who were understandably dubious about their claims. However, as they didn't have any other leads and Showery's initials matched those on the note, they still investigated them. Contacting Alan's girlfriend revealed that he had in fact recently given her jewellery. The items in question were examined by Teresita's friends and family, who identified them as belonging to the deceased woman. Meanwhile, the police also questioned Alan himself. The man's co-workers had revealed that he had planned to go to Teresita's apartment on the night in question to repair her TV. While Alan confirmed that that was the case and that he had in fact gone to the apartment, he claimed that he had left soon after arriving due to realising that he didn't have the right tools for the job. However, upon being informed that the jewellery he had given his girlfriend had been identified as belonging to Teresita's, he confessed to the crime, stating that after he'd left Teresita's apartment the first time, he'd made plans to return and rob her, and that he'd then acted on that. The crime had been less profitable than he thought, since Teresita had kept little in the way of cash in her apartment, which is why he had stolen her jewellery. He then stripped Teresita's body in an attempt to disguise the motive for the murder by making it appear to have been sexually motivated. He then set fire to first the clothes he'd thrown over her, and then the mattress was placed on top to try to destroy any physical evidence. While the attempted misdirection had failed, the fire had succeeded in the intended purpose. If it hadn't been for Remy and the stolen jewellery, he would have likely gotten away with it. Despite his confession at the trial, Alan pled not guilty, and his lawyer attempted to have the case against him thrown out, given the origin of the information that had led to his arrest. His lawyer also claimed that Remy had faked the possessions in order to get revenge on Alan because she blamed him for her getting fired from her job. However, her husband's response to the claims were state that while his wife and Alan had worked at the same hospital, they had never actually met. The trial ended in a hung jury, and shortly afterwards, on the 23rd of February 1979, Alan changed his plea to guilty. Why he did is still unknown, with it being rumoured that Teresita's ghost had paid him a visit in prison. Whatever the reason for the change of plea, he was sentenced to 14 years in prison and was released on parole in 1983. Was the murder of Teresita Basa really solved by the ghost of the victim herself, or is there a more mundane explanation? Whatever the truth of the matter, the case remains one of the most bizarre in Chicago's history. If you like this video and want to see more, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. But until we meet again, please be safe, be well, and I'll see you next time.